Okay, ever so quickly, introductions. Carl.
Carl Ace, Digital Transformation Lead for GSK Human Organisation.
Ganga Siebert, VP Customer Success with Cirtuo.
And Dermot O'Donoghue, BD Source, Head of Digital Garage.
Right, perfect. I'm going to do an unscientific straw poll. Hands up if you've been involved in some kind of digital transformation that's gone wrong.
Oh dear.
Right, there we go. Everyone's in the same boat. So, okay, here we go. Let's just, for once, focus on the downsides, all right? Perhaps we go left to right, and even I'll participate if needed. All of you have seen lots of implementations. You definitely have seen ones that haven't gone as well as intended. In each of your experiences, just give me an idea of the top 2 or 3 mistakes that you've seen that have led to all the best plans going.
I don't think I need the mic. Can everybody hear me okay?
Use the mic.
I think there's a couple of key things, Richard. Don't boil the ocean. CPO was very clear with me. As we embark in GSK on our digital transformation, do not try and boil the ocean. I shared a plan initially, back end of January, beginning of February. There was a lot on there. I think it's a fine balance of being ambitious but being realistic. So that's been massively trimmed down. So we want to focus on fixing our data, probably like most companies in here. And then we want to look at the return on investment linked to the 3 E's and 1 C. Efficiency, effectiveness, experience, all underpinned by compliance and our license to operate. So that's how we're going to try and go into winning our battle with finance and other stakeholders within GSK to sell what we want to do from a digital transformation perspective. So don't boil the ocean and be very, very mindful of the experience for people after your point solutions are in place. They're more productive, they're happier, their lives are easier, their lives are simpler. The rest should take care of itself.
Thank you. Ganga, what's your thoughts? What have you seen go wrong?
Before joining Cirtuo, I bring in 30 years of experience, have been a digital lead for procurement transformation. So I have my share of implementation horrors. I can write a book for Halloween, actually. So, few things, he has touched on some things, right? I think having the right person lead the implementation is very key. Most of the time, you find people who are not busy, you pick them to put them in a group and say, okay, lead this implementation. That's one. So you have to make, I've seen, when you don't have the right person, or over-engineering, like the PMO will be like 30, 40 people PMO team, right? That's also too much bureaucracy, right? That's the other thing. And then the third thing I want to share is like, trying to make that technology, you buy the technology for the right reason. And then you try to take your inefficient process and force it onto the technology, right? You don't want to change your ways of working. Humans are like a creature of habit. So these are some of the things, right, I've seen that can actually derail an implementation.
Wonderful, thank you. David?
Yeah, we talked a bit earlier on, but definitely bring your stakeholders along that journey. For example, if you're implementing a sourcing tool and you're maybe piloting a couple of tools, ask the suppliers what they think. We talked about supplier experience earlier on, so that's really key. And the second one essentially would be around clear KPIs, but making sure every one of your key stakeholders are aligned and aware of what that KPI might be. I've seen examples where there's been misunderstandings between CPOs, suppliers. Make sure the supplier is aware of what the KPI is and maybe give them some skin in the game to drive that value as well.
Got it. Okay. Right, I'm going to do another unscientific straw poll to get everything going. Hands up if you have been involved in either preparing or presenting a business case to get the funds for some kind of technology implementation. Hands up if you delivered, no, keep your hands up, you're not hiding that way. Hands up if you delivered what you said you were going to deliver in the business case. A few hands stayed up, but more than probably expected, all right? So, okay, let's just turn it around. I'm going to apply good old inverting method. You've said failure to take stakeholders on the journey, trying to boil the ocean, overestimating the capability of your team, lack of leadership, the good old steam-powered Tesla, buy something and then just change it or try and make it do what you were trying to change. So if we do the opposite, we bring our stakeholders with us. We've got strong leadership for the change. We've set really clear, smart, achievable, defined objectives, not solve world peace. We are buying a piece of tech and we're just going to adopt the tech, like using Amazon on your phone. In principle, then, it shouldn't go wrong, right? But most businesses don't deliver what the business case said was, even if they do a good job of implementing it, they don't actually deliver the outcomes that the business case said. Carl, I'm going to come to you first. What do you think it is that creates that gap between what was promised, and even if we do it to the best of our ability, we still don't get there? What do you think is the cause of that gap?
Too much bespoken of solutions and inadequate training.
Right.
So my feeling is if you're going to put a digital solution in place and you're going to get people to change their habits, you have to make the training as easy as possible. So you want to buy a new iPhone, you put the other iPhone against the other one and it's copied all across all your details, etc. So you want that iPhone training experience when you put a digital point solution in place. You want to try and keep that training as simple as possible. That's something that I've certainly experienced that isn't the case in GSK. And I think adding to, and then adding to again, and then adding to again, the point solution that you put in place also doesn't help.
I think the business case is great. It's done at this level, just to get the funding. We will put anything there to get approval.
Right.
And then reality sets in. You take it to another level, when you start implementing, that's when I did the business case in an unconstrained way. Now, as I'm trying to implement, there's a lot of constraints I have to work with. So it's very difficult to deliver on time, or sometimes I can go over budget.
Right.
Or you have a great business case done by some consultant, without any consultation from consultants, any consultation with the people who are going to actually be part of the project to implement. So there's like a miscommunication.
David, I'm going to twist it a little bit before it comes to you. It strikes me that if those things have happened, which we know they do, that procurement is basically becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy and undermining itself by over-promising, under-delivering, and anybody that's been in wave 75 of an Ariba rollout knows exactly that horror show. So what do you, because I know you've developed a really strong approach to this of making sure the business case and the goals of the business case and the plan to deliver, I know you apply a lot of rigor to that. What's your experience of how that contributes to your ability to do more in the future, that credibility gap, if you like?
Yeah, I think we need to probably take ourselves out of a situation where we have a digital maybe transformation team presenting the business case. If it's just yourselves and maybe the finance team, you've probably potentially lost already. So, for example, you should have, for example, your source to contract process owner there outlining what maybe the new process is, what the changes are. Have you hired the right people Is there a skills plan in existence for the team that will support the digital piece? So yeah, I suppose maybe take ourselves out of digital representing the finance, but more of a broad approach to the world of procurement and the changes that it'll bring essentially.
Right. And before we go, I'm really interested in this topic of adoption. We'll come back to that next. A quick question. How many of you have ever had the business case for a bit of procurement tech presented by one of your stakeholders? Hands up if you've had that. 2. Right, this is super rare. So, I mean, this will be interesting. We may come back to it in questions. Actually getting the business to say, pardon me, getting the business to say why it believes procurement should have something is incredibly powerful. Right, now let's come back to the Wave 75 of Ariba rollout horror show. Adoption is one of the big underminers of the success of a tech implementation. In each of your experience, what are the practical things that we should be doing to make sure that we maximize adoption, which in theory should lead to the benefit that we wanted in the first place? Carl, what do you think?
I think it comes back to the end user. So what's in it for the end user? How is life going to be different for me in the new digital era? Am I going to be more productive in my job? And yeah, is life going to be easier, simpler, as I'm a creature of habit, as Ganga said, and I park in the same slot every day, I order the same pizza, I do all of these kind of similar things all of the time, but how is life going to be different from me? The other thing that we are doing in GSK is we're implementing a control tower structure, which gives you the right governance, cadence, and really mapping out all of the stakeholders that have skin in the game for the digital transformation. So bringing along tech, bringing along legal, bringing along all of the different functions to ensure that they're very clear on what's happening from an enterprise perspective, not just in procurement.
Ganga, adoption.
Yeah, what I have found, even in my last 3 years with Cirtuo, with more than 20 clients, and prior to that, all my experience, if it is construed as a technology that's going to take away your job, or is it the wrong perception, or is the technology going to make my life much easier, right? That value what's in for each individual, because one size normally don't fit everybody like this, right? So once they understand that this tool is actually going to make me better at my job, it's going to make me shine, see, that message has to be clear. In addition to that, the people who's going to train the users who are going to use the tool have to be very sensitive. You can't just give a generic training and walk away and expect everybody to tomorrow pick up and start using it. So that's, I've seen repeatedly that you can't, not everybody uses the tool every day, so we might have to give them some additional help with some office hours or some reinforcement training, some online help. So it's easy for people. They're not going to put everything in their head all the time. So when you give some additional aids to the people who are going to use the tool, right? So at least they have a go-to place. And then it makes it that much easier. Because some technology, you're not creating like a PO every day. Like especially in strategy, you touch maybe 6 months once, 1 year once. And then you give them one training, and then you think that's good. So when you start looking at the usage, what's happening? Nobody's touching this tool. So we have to create that learning environment, right? Finding good champions, some subject matters to keep it alive. Right. I think this is what I found, that when we have this, there's a lot more I can talk about it, but these few steps, if you have it, in a consistent way, and then the adoption is a lot better.
Correct.
Yeah, maybe 2 final things for myself. First, probably making sure that you're linking or have links to your process and governance. So, for example, if it is Cirtuo, and maybe you have a separate category board, make sure that you're linking what the outputs of search are within the category board, and they're not 2 separate things. And secondly, maybe a bit of reward and recognition. There's a lot of negative things, but like there's definitely some positive things. Create some healthy competition. That's another angle that we've looked at as well.
Got it. I suppose to add a comment, I was talking to a chap who runs a e-commerce tech site based in Germany. Their board has a real simple rule to adoption, which is nothing should take more than 3 clicks. We don't expect our customers to do more than 3 clicks when they're going through the, add it to the basket, add your payment method, select. So if you're asking anyone in the business to do more than 3 clicks, then you're going to collapse adoption as well. What they've discovered is that 3-click methodology has had the single biggest impact on adoption, because if it's easy to use, as you said, then people use it. I mean, none of us go out of our way to pick apps on our mobile phone that are terrible. We delete it and we go and pick another app and we use a different app. So the technology itself has a role to play, I guess, in adoption. Okay. Final thoughts. What one thing, my favorite question, if you were giving advice based on all the things that you've seen, good or bad, if you were going to give a piece of advice to someone who was about to embark on a tech implementation of any shape or size, what would be the one big piece of advice you would give them to make sure they had a good experience?
So we've been experimenting with a few people recently in terms of digital point solutions, and all I'm hearing at the moment from a lot of these startup companies is focus on user experience. So my one bit of advice for people who are embarking on similar journey is focus on user experience. That'll improve adoption. It'll make life easier. That would be my one bit of advice.
Thank you. Hang on.
I think stakeholder engagement related to business requirement is key. If I would add one more thing, is active leadership engagement at various levels makes a huge difference, because sometimes you have very passive leadership engagement, right? But companies that have monthly newsletters and the leaders are actively or coming and joining some of the sessions periodically, I see tremendous engagement from the, at least in our case, the category managers. They feel a lot more motivated that, that their leaders are taking so much interest and they're seeing the value of what was produced, right? The recognition, that makes a huge difference. Everybody wants to be acknowledged and, and recognized. I think that goes a long way.
Thank you, David.
Yeah, and I'd say definitely Eloise touched on this earlier, or maybe it was yesterday, I can't remember, around creating a culture where failure is seen as okay. Certainly, if you're a senior leader, share some experience of maybe where you have failed in the company, so it's kind of seen as accepted. And yeah, with that, obviously, learn from that experience pretty quickly, and I suppose move on. Perfection is not what we want, essentially.
Perfect. Carl, Ganga, David, thank you very much indeed for sharing your thoughts. Bravo.